going on, everybody?
All right,
Welcome
First comment. You got to take that intro and cut it down, man. You lost 200 people in that 50 seconds. Come on, man.
I'm taking off that banner for a moment. Someone has to gloat. But before he gloats, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Isles Talk, the 2024 draft preview show. Paul Kreischer, I'm your host for this evening. Joining me to bear witness to the almost perfection here, Joe Panettiere. Joe, how are you?
I'm good, Paul. How are you?
Yeah, we're all going to be throwing up in about 20 minutes' time here. We can get through this show. And joining us tonight, gloating, Gary Harding, 2 goals away from perfection. Gary, how are you this evening?
Paul, Joe, I'm wonderful. Thank you. It's been a great week. It was a great cup final, regardless of who you were picking for. I'm not even going to talk about my prediction, truthfully, but you guys can do that all you want.
I'm not.
But
the only reason why we brought you on this show this week. Start talking about it. It's the only reason why you're here this week.
You were spot on, man. I got to say that. You were spot
on. I mean,
well,
yep,
a little off, but you were spot on.
Yeah. No. Listen, at the beginning of the season, boys and girls, we truly do take the Islanders and the NHL season preview much more seriously than probably most. And we got to give credit where credit is due. Gary did have at the beginning of the season Florida and Edmonton in the Stanley Cup Finals. And, let's talk about that real quick. Gary, again, seriously, give me your thoughts on the Cup Finals. You had this back in September. Kudos to you. Give me your thoughts real quick on the finals before we hit the draft show here.
Yeah, well, I mean, it was lucky. It was totally lucky. I mean, when I said Edmonton beginning of the year, you guys thought I was nuts. And I remember both of you making comments about it. But you know what? It was based on the fact that Stuart Skinner was not going to be the goaltender. It was going to be Campbell because he had the great year the year before. Everything looked great. You had McDavid and Draisaitl. Everything was going into place, and you had a good coach there, and they started out like garbage. And I thought everything was done. Chris Knobloch comes in, and we all know what happens. Yes, I am nuts. Thanks, Mike. But what are you going to do? Mm-hmm. Anyhow, but we all know what happened with Edmonton, and just the way the finals turned out. I honestly can say, if it went to overtime, I would have put it in the top 2 or 3 all time. I got to put it just a little bit lower because of one, my expectation, and 2, just the way that certain guys you would expect to have been crucial to the team's success fell short. Leon Draisaitl, by no doubt about it, no mention about it. I have a feeling you're going to hear he was hurt. He's another one of those guys.
He was.
Say, yeah,
broken
maybe
rib, I think.
No, he did have a broken rib.
I think he did have a broken rib. Yes.
Okay, I haven't seen that information yet, but okay.
Okay.
That shows to go you. In my mind, there was no other MVP than Connor, even though his last 2 games were sub Connor. But he was brilliant. I mean, everything worked out. And going now to the other side, if it wasn't for the fact that I picked Edmonton to win this whole bloody thing, I would have been on the Panther bandwagon with all of you. I mean, I really thought they were the better team. When they came out game 1, 2, and 3, you thought, forget it, it's over. And, of course, we all know what happened. But it's a great story on Florida, making it in the last day last season and going to the final saying we got to get retribution. And they do it. They make the right deals. I mean, Kyle didn't play a major impact, but he was big in that locker room. And you hear all the guys talking about him. And that's what you love to hear. And you love to see guys that are probably going to win the cup on their last game they ever play professional. So, like I said, I was disappointed that my pick didn't happen, but I'm not disappointed that Florida won, and I'm not disappointed in the result. It was a great playoff. I think overall, probably one of the one or two best playoff years that we've ever had. I don't know if you agree with that, but it's pretty damn close.
Joe, give me your thoughts on the overall series.
A series is fantastic. One of the best I've seen since I'm a kid. The extremes were amazing. Being up 3-0, then having Edmonton come back and winning 3 straight. And Paul, we said it. When is Edmonton going to start skating? And when they started skating, they started winning. They started putting the puck in the net. But like you also said, Draisaitl getting banged up changed the whole dynamic of everything, because now they really keyed on Connor McDavid. They gave him no room in that game 7. He had no room to do anything. They shut him down completely. And Bobrovsky was on. I mean, the stars lined up for the Panthers. But the one thing I didn't like in that whole series, and it didn't have anything to do with the play, it was the scheduling. Okay,
yes.
A Stanley Cup playoff series isn't supposed to have 3 days off. Okay, you have 1 day to travel. You get right back at it. Okay, this thing. Oh, the players, they got to rehydrate. They got to, no. That's not what the Stanley Cup playoffs are. I'm sorry. Okay? It's a beatdown. That's what it is. I just don't like the way they scheduled it, and they did it right after the second round, which wasn't good. I mean, to me, it looks like they say, well, it looks like the Panthers are going to go to the Cup, give everybody a rest because they play this bang-up style. But, that's just my thing. Great series. I just didn't like the scheduling. I didn't like the series going over 2 weeks. It's terrible. It's terrible for hockey.
Yeah, I agree with that. Listen, as far as I'm concerned, congratulations to Kyle Oposo. And I'm also going to go shout out here to former Bridgeport Sound Tiger Carter Verhaeghe, winning his second Stanley Cup. He won the first one with Tampa. Again, I didn't like the way Florida lost. Those were just some blowout, Doug Weight losses. It's almost like they didn't show up. For me, it's like FanDuel, MGM Grand, DraftKings. They all got to pay up the Florida Panthers for keeping that series going. My humble opinion, that's a series that should never have gone 7 games. I don't care what kind of back and forth it was. That should have been Florida's series in less than 7. I'm ecstatic that the viewership for Game 7 was there. It got kudo marks for all the television views. Wonderful. I'm happy for it. But that's a series that never should have gone 7. I'm very happy for my brother, the one Ranger fan who lives in Florida. He was able to go to Game 7, watch that whole experience. I'm very happy for the Florida Panther fans, everyone who got that experience. And I am happy for the Edmonton Oilers. I thought they did a really good job, at least in keeping up there. But this was a series that should never have gone 7 games. But I'm happy with the outcome. I'm glad everyone enjoyed their Game 7. This was definitely a good one to watch. But for me, this whole playoffs took too long. And for me, Florida should have finished them off sooner than Game 7. But it is what it is. There's nothing else to it. It did hinge on the play of Bobrovsky. And again, Bobrovsky kind of showed up and he didn't show up. So, we'll go from there. Is there anything else you guys want to add? The overall season, the Stanley Cup Finals, moving forward. What do you got? Gary, give me some parting thoughts on this entire 23-24 season.
Well, I would have said similar things for the TV. I think this year, I think the way the playoffs worked out and the matchups that they had, I think were exciting enough that it got more than you and I and all of us avid fans into it. I think it really got, definitely got more coverage. I understand the hate of the 2-day travel between 5, 6, and 7. And by the way, they all are wrong. This was not the longest distance. I'm sorry, but isn't New York to LA more than 2,500 miles? Isn't Vancouver to Boston more than 2,500 miles?
I don't know.
I think it's.
I beg to differ.
I think it's 3,000 miles, right?
Exactly. But they were saying this is the longest travel that two teams played. The Rangers and the Kings played in 2012. The Rangers and the Kings played in 2012. And I'll bet you they weren't 2 days between games. I'll bet you dollars to donuts they weren't. They had a game on a Tuesday night. They had a game next place on a Thursday night. I'll guarantee it. But to cut that down, the playoffs were great. I think the NHL had the opportunity to grab more fans, and they seized the opportunity. And again, adding the fact in that you've got a new media market in Salt Lake City, I think an area that's going to embrace the NHL big time. I think that's even better for the league going forward. And you notice, I don't know if it was mentioned much in the papers, but I think that deal that the Arizona owner thought he was going to get now to get land was struck down. So they're back to square one again, or square zero, actually.
Yeah.
Square zero. No, yeah.
They're minus
zero. Yeah, for sure.
Exactly it.
But like I said, I thought the season was outstanding, and the fact that we saw the winner crowned on Monday, and Friday we have the draft. And the schedule is probably going to be out early next week. So Paul's in like euphoria right now, which we know, and again, and rightfully so, because we all know Paul loves this time of year, and we'll see how his picks do. But I'm thrilled. I'm thrilled for the year, and this trend's got to continue. The NHL's got to, carpe diem, seize the day. They've got to seize this and make it their own.
Joe, give me your parting thoughts here on the 23-24 season. If we want to talk Isles a little bit, any parting thoughts?
Well, another disappointing year being an Islander fan.
Sure.
That's it. Listen, early exits in the playoffs. What could you say about it? They were very disappointing. Scheduling. I have a gripe with that. They should either do it every other night, okay, have the one travel day, or go back to what they did in the 80s. 2 back-to-back home games, a day off, you travel, then 2 back-to-back games on the road, then 1-1-1. Let the boys play. That's what I say. I just don't like it dragged out. There was no reason. What was the logic behind dragging this out? What was it? Why that extra day's rest? What were you doing with that extra day's rest?
Yeah.
What was it doing? I would like an explanation. Like,
saying goodbye to family or spending more time with family. That's my only other logical answer.
It's the hockey playoffs. You have 2 months in the
summer.
You
were looking for an explanation. You were looking for an explanation.
I don't want that kind of explanation. That's No, listen. It was an enjoyable series. The playoffs were fantastic. We had some great games, but now I'm looking forward to the draft. So that's it. We move on.
Beautiful. All right, gentlemen. This is where I unfortunately get to ramble for like the next hour and a half or so with the fans.
Well, that takes care of me. Have a good night, everybody.
This is going to be Joe's parting swan song here, probably for the summer. Joe, where can they find you on social media and whatnot? And
at Joe Panettiere on X. I'm on Facebook. You could call me, text me, do whatever you like.
I'll give everyone your home address and whatnot.
He'll be on the barbecue.
I have to before I log off. I have to pay homage to Gary. Gary,
go ahead.
What you did was amazing. I don't know how you figured out those 2 teams are going to be there. I don't know if you locked yourself in a room and just, whatever you did, but it was amazing. And this is for you. That's what I think of that, Gary. I'll see you later.
Well, I think he was thanking. I think he was thanking me, and unfortunately, the whole time that he was thanking me, my machine went whacked out, so I missed the whole thing. So, oh well.
Yeah, it did. Yeah, I think he's lying, folks. But either than that, let's get into now. One season is over. Another season here is upon us. It's a brand new one. It is the 2024 NHL Draft. Just a quick background, folks. And Gary will attest to this. When I first started blogging back in 2008, Garth Snow had decided to begin a rebuild of the New York Islanders. So I began to dive into the draft because it felt like we were going to be doing that for a while. Moving ahead a few years, more research has kicked in and more work was put in. And it has gotten to the point now where for this season, now this being number, I think, 16 for me, I was painfully asked to do a mock draft, which is something I hate doing, in what is probably the youngest draft I have seen almost ever. Okay, and I need to reaffirm that. This 2024 NHL draft is probably one of the youngest, if not the youngest drafts a lot of these scouts have witnessed in a very, very long time.
Let me ask this, Paul. Let me just interject real quick because it does make sense. Because obviously the last three drafts it was COVID affected.
Correct.
Because you had college kids playing an extra year, you had an extra year of junior eligibility. So when you think about it, this is probably the first time in like 6 years that you've got a draft of this kind of level. Because you weren't seeing a lot of 17 and 18-year-olds, many of them in the first round. You had a couple, of course, but this first round, from what I'm seeing, it could be almost 10 to a dozen that are 17 and 18.
No doubt. And I am going to give props real quick to Randy Workman, who did do an Islanders mock draft. If you have not looked at that yet, folks, Randy put in that link for other Islander fans for you to check that out. I thought that was very good for someone who's
even though we bust Randy's chops, he does a really good job. There's no doubt about it.
That was a solid job. And
now his head's going to be a size 12.
Maybe. But heading into this draft, boys and girls, I can tell you right now, the Islanders, from a prospect perspective, is now running dry. And what do I mean by prospects? I'm saying college. I'm talking European. As of right now, this conversation, they have no one in the Canadian Hockey League. They have no one in the U.S. Hockey League right now. No one. They've got 5 players in college, which if you followed me and Mike McMahon a few weeks ago, a good portion of them, 4, maybe even all 5 of them, are going to play professionally at some point for the Islanders, whether it be Bridgeport, New York, or Worcester. Okay. You also have 2 in Europe. Could they eventually move over? Sure. They're also on the younger side. Got to give them a little more time. Having said that, entering this 2024 draft, when you spread the prospects out and they're now playing professionally, I have not seen a more healthier organization full of prospects in both Bridgeport and Worcester in almost 5 years. And I need to emphasize that with my mock draft and some of my picks tonight. With Bridgeport and Worcester being as healthy as they are, these picks possibly anybody, whoever gets drafted from here on out, 24, 25, 26, 27, they're coming into an organization where the compete level is going to be higher. Missing the playoffs will be absolutely disgusting. There is no excuses for them to miss the playoffs at this point. There's another standard that we as fans have not seen in almost 5 years. So, having said that, what are the odds of these players when they're drafted? How many games would they play as a New York Islander? And this is something I take into account when I'm looking through the draft. Okay, if you're a first round pick and you've been drafted by the Islanders, the average amount of games played by each New York Islander first round pick is roughly 300 to 325 games. Now, other players have moved on. Other players couldn't cut it. So that number is actually a little bit more. But as a New York Islander, if you've been drafted in the first round by this organization, the standard is usually around 300 games, which is better than the actual NHL average, believe it or not. The NHL average is about 150, 200. So when you're drafted in the first round, you've got a chance to play 300 games as a New York Islander if you can put it all together. If you're a second round pick, you're looking at somewhere between 75 and 100 games, right around the average, which isn't bad. Overall, the Islanders, when they get their players and they're playing the amount of games they're supposed to play, they're right around the NHL average, believe it or not, folks. When you hit third round, fourth round, fifth round, sixth round, you're looking on average between 30 to 60, 65 games. Seventh round, 0. Which is why I have been preaching the last couple of seasons for the Islanders to draft over agers. Because at the very least, they can get you into Bridgeport, and who knows from there. The problem that the Islanders have had over the years, it's not so much the quality, but the quantity. The biggest Achilles heel for the Islanders when it comes to the draft is that there's usually about one person per year, one player per year that makes this Islander squad. The goal should be 2, preferably 3. The Islanders have not been able to do that. That's something that needs to change moving forward, starting with this 2024 draft. You got to take into account COVID really messed up a lot of players, organizations developed. So with a fresh, clean slate, even 2023, I'd include that as well. 2023, 2024, 2025. The Islanders drafting needs to be solid. And I need to emphasize this again. When I say 17 years of age, they are still 17 years of age. When I say 18 years of age, they just celebrated a birthday. That's how young these kids are. That's how difficult of a draft this is. Okay? The prospect rankings go number 1 and number 2. Then the other tier goes from like 3 to 10. And then the other tier is like 11 to 19, give or take. There's a reason why I did a top 50 prospect ranking. Because at this point, picks 20 through 50, in my humble opinion, is strictly general manager preference. 20 through 40, you're going to get a little more quality. 40 through 50, it's still there. But then everything really drops after number 60. And I take that into account. Doesn't mean these kids are bad. It just means they're going to take a lot of time to develop. Okay. So, another thing when I go into this draft, my 4 favorite words: I have trust issues. Okay. Allow me to explain. Back in 2013, I was at the Islanders draft party. I was there with Gary. I told Gary, I think Ryan Pulock is going to be our guy. A week before that, I had Bo Horvat coming to the Islanders.
Yeah.
Who ended up taking Bo Horvat?
Vancouver.
Who traded with Vancouver? Lou Lamoriello and the Devils. Okay, I have a love-hate relationship when it comes to the draft and Lou Lamoriello. Back in 2019, when I was doing the draft show on Long Island, all 5 of my players on that wish list were there at the taking for number 19. Arthur Kaliev was the big one I wanted. Who did the Islanders take? Simon Holmstrom. Out of nowhere. Out of the depths of everyone's prospect rankings, somewhere in the 10th, in the 3rd round.
Yeah, I heard early third, late second, early third.
Yes.
At that time.
Okay.
And I'm like, wow, off the board.
Yes. Okay. Now, I have trust issues with Lou again. 2022. I had Frank Nazar at the number 12 or 13 slot for the Islanders.
Well, it was 12.
It was 12. Okay. Sure enough. There he was at number 12. What happened with that pick? It got traded to Montreal for Alexander Romanov, and Chicago eventually traded Frank Nazar at that spot. So just because I have these players here, just because I have my wish list, when it comes to the draft and Lou, and I'm going to include the Philadelphia Flyers, I'm going to include the Washington Capitals, I'm going to include the Montreal Canadiens, I'm going to include the Detroit Red Wings. These are all teams, and Randy will attest to this, these are all teams that will ruin your mock draft in a heartbeat. Are there any guarantees of these players? Absolutely not. Is this the hardest draft I've ever come up with? Absolutely. Could any of these work? Probably not. But I was asked to do a mock draft to see how close or how much on track I am when it comes to drafting with the Islanders. So, without further ado, let's do the first round. The first round for you guys, I came up with a wish list, and some of them are in the prospect rankings closest to number 20. Okay. Igor Chernyshov. Okay. I know, and I'm going to give Tommy credit here. He had Chernyshov available at number 20. Good pick. What are you getting out of Igor Chernyshov? Left wing, 6'2", 196 out of the KHL. For right now, how I like to describe these prospects is the closest thing to an Islander to give you guys a better idea of what this player could be or what could be molded into, or at the bare minimum, or what the scouts like to call their floor, not necessarily their ceiling. What are you getting out of Chernyshov? You're getting a 200, and Gary's going to laugh with some of these comments. With Chernyshov, for right now, you're getting a 200-foot Oleg Kavasha. For those of you old farts like myself and Gary, if you remember Oleg Kavasha, He did everything but score goals like we wanted him to. You put him on a first line with Alexei Yashin, he racked up 50 points, 50 to 65 points. He only racked up 15 goals, sometimes 17, 18. That is the floor for Chernyshov. For those of you who want to know what Rich Pilon would look like in today's modern NHL era, look no further than Sten Solberg. 18 years old, 6'2", 201, Swedish Hockey League. The kid's a bully. He's Rich Pilon. Better defensively, of course, but he's the biggest intimidator in this draft. That's a possibility around there. Sasha Boisvert. To give Randy credit, that was his pick. Good, solid pick. Sasha Boisvert has been the most consistently linked player to the Islanders, probably going back to October or November. This kid has gone from maybe 16th or 17th down to maybe no more than 23rd on most people's ranks. And if he's fallen off, it's because other players have moved up. There's nothing wrong with his game. The closest you're going to get to Sasha Boisvert in terms of a mold or style is Brock Nelson. Okay? That's what you're getting out of Sasha Boisvert. And again, a good pick by Randy. Jet Lachenko. Jet Lachenko right now is, for right now, there's a possibility he could be at 20, but I'll get into that in a moment. What are you getting out of Jet Lachenko? As a centerman, he could be a Matt Barzal style. If he moves over to the wing, you're looking at a Jason Blake. He can basically do everything. But if he can find more goal scoring as a winger, you're looking at Jason Blake. Me personally, he's my favorite pick in this first round. Now, I'm going to throw you guys two curveballs here as far as my wish list. They're further down in the rankings, but like I said, there's no real difference between 20 and 50 at this point at their ages, except for personal preference by the general manager. Dominic Bedinka, 18 years old, 6'3", 190 from Malmo. Okay, he's a Czech player. Right-handed defenseman, Swedish Hockey League. But Gary, he's got that Kenny Janssen mold. At the very
wasn't Janssen from Malmo too?
Somewhere in there, yes.
Yeah, I thought so.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. Makes sense.
He reminds me of Kenny Janssen. He's got the floor of a third pair defenseman, and putting him with someone like Isaiah George, yes, please. Puck possession, definitely not a problem. Puck transition, definitely not a problem. Okay, I'm just going to throw that in there. Again, I have trust issues. Another little favorite of mine is EJ Emery. Right-handed defenseman, 6'3", 185, going to the University of North Dakota next season. For now, I'll put him as a third pairing Scott Mayfield. His offense is a little untapped, but if he can work that out at North Dakota, I think he'd be a very good player at that point. Now, again, kudos to everyone who had Chernyshov, Boisvert, Lachenko, all those top players. Congratulations. In a normal season, I probably would have picked them too. But again, I have trust issues with Detroit. I have trust issues with Washington. My hope is that one of those three are still there at number 20. Okay? If all three of those players are gone and the Islanders still want to draft a centerman, I'm going to throw you a curveball here. His name is Lucas Peterson. Lucas Peterson, 5'11". He's a center right winger, just turned 18. 5'11", 172 out of Modo, Swedish Hockey League. He is a European version of Matt Barzal, but more complete. This guy takes on face-offs. He goes up against the team's best offensive players. And Gary, what I like about Peterson above all the other guys is the fact that if Lou wanted to pull a Simon Holmstrom, you could bring Peterson over tomorrow and not have to wait to develop this kid in Bridgeport.
Is the size going to be an issue, Paul?
He's Barzal's size. Barzal 6'0", 190.
Oh, I thought you said 5. Okay, I thought I heard something different. Sorry.
No, he's 5'11", 172 right now.
Oh, 5'11".
Just turned 18.
I thought you said 5'8". I'm sorry. Okay, no, that's
no, 5'11".
That's fine. You beef him up with 10 or 15, and you're fine.
Right.
Okay, that's fine. You beef him up 15 pounds, like 10, 15 pounds, you're fine.
Right. Yeah.
Because in Swedish League, you can get away with that.
Right. Right. So that's if Lou wants to pull a Simon Holmstrom on me. Lucas Peterson may be that pick. Other than that, I would love, don't get me wrong, I would love Chernyshov. I would love Sasha Boisford. I would love Jet Lachenko if they're all available. But if he goes a forward, Lucas Peterson for me is probably that guy the Islanders are going to look at. And yeah, he's down in the rankings, but so is Simon Holmstrom. So I'm just covering all grounds. Yeah,
How far was he down, Paul?
He is down in the lower mid-second. Mid-second,
so
upper second, depending on the team. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, he's around 48, 49, depending on some places. Lou trades back further to get more draft capital. You can't afford to do that in this draft. If you're looking for a particular player, there's absolutely no guarantee they're going to be there. I can't stress this enough how much of a philosophical draft this is. Scouts could probably tell all the GMs, these are the players we want. The GMs can go out and pick a completely different player. It's going to be you need to have your plan. They needed to have their plan set 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago. Trading down is a very big risk if they're going to get a top level player. Very tough. Beckett Seneke is off the table. I'm going to go yes. He was on my list, and I'm going to do this. Adam Yurchek was on my list. Michael Haig was on my list. Emil Hemming was on my list. Beckett Seneke was on my list. Jaeger Surin was on my list. Matt V. Gridden was on my list. Marek Vanacker was on my list. Okay, they were all there. They've all either moved up in a lot of other people's rankings or mock drafts, or they've all moved down.
Well, I'm gonna back off.
Okay.
I'm gonna let you do your thing. All right, bud.
Okay. Thank you,
all right,
sir.
Man, take it easy. See you, everybody.
Yep. So that's the first round. That's who I think the Islanders are going to go for. My prize, my hope, it's Jetlachenko. My backup would be Lucas Peterson. If they go defense, I would be happy with either Solberg, Badinka, or Emery. Okay, my prospect list is on ilestalk.com. Got the 1 through 50 right over there. I'll maybe do that later on. Moving on to the second round. This is where things get really complicated. Okay. This is a little bit more of a personal preference if you've been watching the shows. The Islanders have the 54th overall and the 61st overall pick. For the second round, get me any Russian goalie. If Kirill Zanubin is there, draft him. Pavel Moisevich, draft him. Mikhail Yegorov, draft him. Get any Russian goalie like that in the top tier. Why? Because I still want the Islanders to be a goalie factory now. I want them to do what the Rangers did with Henrik Lundqvist. We've already seen it. Sorokin cannot handle it by himself. If the Islanders can develop a goalie factory and they play backup or even help out Sorokin for half a season, you're adding trade value to some of these guys when they want to be a first line, a 1A goaltender for another team. You can get more assets for that goaltender. You can help out Sorokin in the same style. Now, Henrik Tikkanen could still have a future. Christian Lennox was injured last season. We need to see what he's going to do. Hodberg probably is a good number 3 goaltender for right now. The Islanders don't have a goaltender in their system developing. No one. Getting another goaltender who could be ready sooner or later doesn't matter. If Semyon Varlamov stays on Long Island, that's even better. Hey, you want me to be a goalie coach? Sure. Come on over. You want to play with Sorokin? Sure. Come on over. Get me any Russian goalie right now in this second round. I don't care who it is. If the Islanders can draft Jetlachenko and any of those Russian goalies, big time win. Big time win. Yes, agreed. A 1A, 1B balance. And let me tell you, those Russian goalies right now that no one's talking about, they've got the potential to be a solid 1B. Solid. Again, they're young, but they're on that right track. And with Bridgeport and Worcester being the way they are right now, it's a better environment than where it was 5 years ago. Absolutely. No doubt. I completely agree with that. Now, as far as the second round goes, if they're not going to draft, after they draft a goalie, who would I want? I still think the Isles need a right-handed defenseman. And I'm going to go, I wish Gary could have stayed on a little bit longer. I'm going to go with Spencer Gill. And here's my reasoning. Over the last couple of years, Lou has drafted a lot of 17-year-olds. Simon Holmstrom, Oliver Wahlstrom, some of them just turned 18 on their birthdays or whatnot. Very young. Some of those kids were playing during their last year in juniors or wherever at 17. A lot of GMs look at 17-year-olds, and this is a draft for it. I'm going with Spencer Gill, right-handed defenseman, still at 17 years old. 6'3", 179. He plays in the Q. Okay. He is a very raw, emphasis on raw, Noah Dobson. Yes, he's a big, lanky kid, but he kind of plays like Dobson. His defense has improved immensely for his age, and they want him to continue to work on that defense. Again, a second rounder like Gill, you know he's going to be in Bridgeport. They're not going to give him the Noah Dobson treatment. If the Islanders can mold him into a solid defenseman, his floor is probably a third pair. But you're getting a third pair Noah Dobson in the second round. Right, exactly. That's my hope for him. And again, a second round pick for the New York Islanders, you're only going to get 75 to 100 games, roughly, in the past. Can Spencer Gill play 75 to 100 games in the NHL? As of right now, yeah, he's on pace for that. That's someone I would take a look at. Now, on my wish list for that second round, I'm still looking at Harrison Brunick, 6'3", 187, another second round Scott Mayfield type. John Mustard. If you guys are going to like Siplikoff, you guys are going to like John Mustard. Out of Waterloo, he's going to Providence. Will Scahan, left defense, 6'4", 212. He's going to Boston College. When you look at Scahan, you're looking at Alexander Romanov. Kamil Bednarik, he's a JG Pajot. He's going to Boston U, 6'0", 185. As you can see, what I'm doing with these defensemen in my wish list, they're bigger. They've got a little more size. They got a little more bite. I like them. This is also a draft, Mark. I'm not going to lie. There's a little bit of 2017 to them. Everyone thought 2017 was going to be a bad draft. It just turned out there were a lot of kids taking their time developing, maybe some late bloomers. Okay. That also, this draft also has a feeling of 2017. But again, with the way the prospects are spread out in Bridgeport and Worcester, these kids are coming into a better development environment than what we had 5 years ago. And the best part of it is these kids don't have to come in for like another solid 2 years. Trevor Connolly at 20. He wasn't on my list. He was a little high to begin with. And it's a little mix of both of why he's slipping. When I see prospects slipping the way they are, I'm a little worried about that. It's a little more of a red flag for me. I guess Josh Ho-Sang, is a reason for that. I have trust issues with that. A couple of the other Russian players way back when in the draft, they slipped down. Those are now red flags. I want to stay away from those players who are still slipping in the draft, if you understand what I mean. They're slipping for a reason, and I don't want to catch any more red flags. This is the Islanders' only first-round pick. You got to make the right call. You got to make it. So that's why I don't have Connolly on my list. But in terms of the second round, goaltender, yes. Defenseman, preferably. Right-handed defenseman would go a long way. And again, you're asking these defensemen to play roughly 35 to 60 games in the NHL. I think these kids can do it. It's been a while since we've had 2 second-round picks in 1 year. Go figure. Okay, the Islanders right now don't have a third-round pick. That could change. In the fourth round, fourth, fifth, and sixth rounds are a little more different. What I did with the bottom picks, and you have to understand, for me, a first-round pick is 1 through 25 or 26. Okay, 27 through 32 they're only first-round picks because of expansion. As far as I'm concerned, they're more like upper-tier second-round picks. So when I'm looking at the 4th, 5th, and 6th-round picks, for me, exactly, it's the new NHL. For me, these picks are more like 5, 6, and 7, which is why the Islanders already traded their 7th-round pick. Okay? In the 4th round, I've done things a little differently. I'm looking to see who moved up in the rankings. Who moved down in the rankings, but it's only because the kids moved up. Other kids moved up. There was nothing wrong with their game. Is there a sneaky good pick in here? I did a little more research for the 4th, 5th, and 6th round picks for you guys. What I would like to see in the 4th round, Ollie Josephson. He's a center, left winger, 17 years old still. 6 foot, 181. Plays for Red Deer. For those of you in Islanders trivia, name the last name associated with Red Deer. Come on, you old farts. Red Deer of the Western Hockey League. Ollie Josephson reminds me of a Casey Cizikas, but with the IQ of Michael Pekka. This kid can fly. He's got all the defensive bingo. He's got all of the defensive stuff down pat. He's a defensive forward through and through. The nasty part is this kid's developing a scoring touch. He's developing a scoring touch. And I think that seems to be a common theme with me with some of these other guys. Other players that I have, my backup plan in the 4th round, Heikki Ruohonen, 18 years old center out of Finland. He's actually going to Harvard University. 6'1", 196. He plays like Scatcherd, but he seems to be following Josephson and getting a scoring touch. And he's almost molding himself into a Brock Nelson. So for now, I put him as a bottom 6. He could be a middle 6 with some work. Again, my expectations for some of these kids are not as high in the 4th, 5th, and 6th round. Can these kids get into Bridgeport? They're going to have to get to Bridgeport if they're going to have any kind of a career and play roughly 30 to 60 games in this Islanders organization. That's the goal of finding players 4th, 5th, and 6th round. Can these kids play in the NHL as an Islander for 30 to 60 games? That's what I'm looking for. Another pick on my wish list here is Alexis Bernier. Right-handed defenseman, 6'1", 196 out of Baie-Comeau. Justin Gill's teammate. Good kid. Good moves. Maybe put him as an Adam Pelech type player. I would probably see him more of a call-up than anything else. But again, 30 to 60 games as a New York Islander, he could still do it. And a little chemistry with Justin Gill could go a long way as well. Ilya Nabokov is still here in the 4th round, just in case the Islanders torment me and they don't draft any other Russian goalie in that 2nd round. If he's still there, the Islanders should draft Nabokov. I'm very heavy right now on the Islanders drafting a goaltender in that 4th round. Randy had mentioned Carter George as a last resort. Yes. I'm okay with Carter George. But some of these other goalies, let me go back real quick. Okay. Kirill Zanubin, 6'4", 179. Pavel Moisevich, 6'5", 176. Mikhail Yegorov, 6'4", 187. Do you guys see the theme here? Henrik Tikkanen, I think, is like 6'6". But they're all athletic. They're all athletic. That's why I'm looking at some of these Russian goalies. Their height and their skill, athleticism is what has me over Carter George at the moment. Carter George, in all possibilities, could be your Stuart Skinner in the sense that the regular seasons are okay, depending on the team that he's on. But you put Carter George in the big games, he can get you those big games. That's what you like to see so far. Again, this is such a crapshoot, 4th, 5th, and 6th rounds. But Ole Josephson for right now seems to be that guy. Another sneaky good move maybe by the Islanders is Logan Sawyer, 17 years old, left winger, 6'1", 174, out of the Brooks Bandits, British Columbia Hockey League. He's on his way to Providence. Simply put, he had a great playoffs. He had a much better regular season, and he's done all he could do. He's going to Providence. Again, Providence is a work ethic type of college. If they can mold him into something, that would be phenomenal. Now, Caden Harrington, right-handed defenseman, 6'1", 185. He's going to Vermont. He's been moving up in the rankings as well. I was kind of hoping Caden Harrington was going to stay in the 6th round for me, make my life a little easier. No, he's moved up in the rankings as well. So the players that I'm mentioning, they've all moved up. Say in that 5th, 6th, 7th round at the beginning of the season, they've now moved up into that 4th round level where they could be sneaky good picks. Excuse me here while I change the banner. 4th, 5th, and 6th rounds. Okay. In my 5th round, I'm torn. There's a right winger by the name of Noah Powell, right winger, 6 foot, 201, had a breakout year in the U.S. Hockey League in terms of goals. He's going to Ohio State. Kind of reminded me of a little Anders Lee. And what I've noticed in my 5th round is that I've got a lot of college players here. Elliot Gronwald, 18 years old, left-handed defenseman, 6'2", 201. He's going to Quinnipiac. Philip Satar, center, 5'11", 183 from Malmo. He's going to Northern Michigan. Brunevik, left winger, 5'11", 190. He's going to the University of Denver. Brendan McMorrow, 5'11", 190. He's going to the University of, I did say Denver. My apologies. Aiden Park, going to Michigan. You can see the theme here. There's a couple of good players that are going to really good colleges for the development. If they come out of these colleges, can they get into Bridgeport? That's the philosophy I'm going with these 5th rounders. Can they get themselves into Bridgeport? After that, it's up to them. The one player I'm looking at for the 5th round is Franz Hara, believe it or not. He's an overager. I'm picking overagers again. The Islanders have done well picking overagers and getting them into Bridgeport to improve the overall talent level in Bridgeport. But at the same time, when you have 5th, 6th, 7th rounders this late with such a young draft, there's nothing wrong with going with overagers. And I'm hoping the Islanders can snatch up 1 or 2 overagers. Frank Hara, 20 years old, right-handed defenseman, 6'1", 185, out of the Swedish Hockey League. He's moved up in rankings as well. If the Islanders can pick him up, that would probably solve my little dilemma of a right-handed defenseman that's needed in Bridgeport, kind of like now, moving forward. If not this year, definitely next season. My 6th round. These are mostly overagers, but we might be able to sneak in another right-handed defenseman. But if the Islanders can pick up, again, 5th or 6th round, Peter Repsik, 20 years old, He's a center winger, 6 foot 192, out of Drummondville, out of the Q. Here's the thing with Repsic. He was on Team Slovakia this whole time with Nemec and a bunch of others where they upset Team USA. This kid's done everything internationally. He's done it all. He's won. He when he's on that wider rink, he excels. He struggled in the Western Hockey League, and that kind of wiped out his draft prospects. But this year in the Q, granted as an overager, the game started to come to him. And he tore it up. And he even did very well in the Memorial Cup tournament. They just didn't have enough to beat London or the rest of them. But he's been able to put everything together now. My hope is that if the Islanders can pick up the centerman, he could also be an immediate help for Bridgeport, whether it's this coming season or the following season. Other players in that 6th round, I'm looking at William McIsaac, 18 years old, right-handed defenseman, 6'3", 192, out of Spokane, Western Hockey League. Think of him as a Nick Leddy with a little more defense. He'll keep up with you. Very good on the poke checks. He can get a little violent with you if you get too close, especially along the boards. But he's got like that Nick Leddy mold to him. If they're around in the 5th or 6th round, very difficult to do. And that's about it. So my wish list for this draft, on my mock draft, Jet Lachenko, Kirill Zarubin, goaltender, Spencer Gill, Ollie Jefferson, Peter Repsic, and William McIsaac. My I don't trust you blog. My I don't trust you draft. And again, I don't trust Detroit. I don't trust Philadelphia. I don't trust Washington. I don't trust Lou. Lou has messed up my mock drafts a couple of times already. I don't trust Nashville either. I'm going to hate Barry Trotz at the end of this draft. I have that feeling. Okay? This is my I don't trust draft, my mock draft. Lucas Peterson, Mikhail Yegorov, Will Skahan, Heikki Ruhonen, Noah Powell, and Franz Hurok. Noah Powell, I still think could be a good sleeper. He's an overager as well. Would I like a little mix of everyone? Absolutely. But what am I looking for from this Islanders squad, from this mock draft? I would like a best player available, whether it be Sasha Boisford, whether it be Jet Lachenko, would it be Chernyshov? I would take those forwards. I would take a forward in the 1st round, right off the bat. I would go there. In my 2nd round, I'm still looking for that goaltender on purpose. I would ruin everyone's mock draft. Go with a goaltender in the 2nd round. If I can pick up a defenseman in the 2nd round, I would do that as well. In the 3rd round, in the 4th, 5th, and 6th round, I'm looking for those guys who have moved up in the rankings. I'm looking for a couple of centermen, maybe another right-handed defenseman, and maybe another winger somewhere in there. But they're a little older. They're a little more experienced. Do they have a chance to play in Bridgeport? After that, with the talent that's in Bridgeport, it hasn't been better than in 5 years. We haven't seen a healthy Bridgeport team full of prospects like this in 5 years. The development is going to be better. And I can tell you right now, if the Islanders can draft Lachenko, Zarubin, Gill, Josephson right off the bat, the Islanders are not going to be in 30th. they're not going to be last in the prospect rankings. That's how you get moving up. Combine the fact with Danny Nelson, Finley, and the rest of them, the Islanders are going to move up. What the Islanders need to continue to do is mold their draft similar and development to the Dallas Stars. Draft their first rounders, develop them, get all these players in, and just continue to develop, move on every single year, moving on. So that is my draft, boys and girls. I may be off completely, and I completely admit that right off the bat. I don't know who the Islanders are going to draft. That is just a possibility. They may go best player available. Having said that, I don't trust. I think Detroit could draft Sasha Boisford. I think Washington could draft Yegerov. Lachenko could probably go to St. Louis for all I know. So I just don't know. We'll find out on Friday. Do you guys have any questions, comments, concerns about the draft? I know something's going on in the chat room with other trades and something else going on like that. I honestly haven't looked at it. Be careful with you guys on Long Island. I believe it's bad weather over there by you as well. I know I'm getting some. But yeah, I wouldn't mind a mix. Noah Powell, Rahonen, some of these guys are still like possibilities. Will Skahan may actually be there. Skahan may still be there. Yegerov may be there. Carter George, maybe, but I'm still a little higher on the Russian goalies, believe it or not, only because of their size. Okay, so let's do water cooler talk real quick. Have I heard anything on the assistant coaches? No. Haven't heard anything. Again, would I be surprised to hear Kyle McLean's name coming back? No, I would not be surprised. Doug Huda, that's a different story. I don't know. Could the Islanders, and again, this is something that we've been given credit for, well, something we've been allowed to say before. As of Sunday, the Islanders had all intentions of drafting in this draft, and that included their first 3 picks in the first 2 rounds, which is why I'm doing this mock draft show. Okay. Could things change? Absolutely. Look at 2022. Okay. I can say this from experience now. It's 9:09. Every general manager is working their tail off. They're all in Vegas. They're all talking deals. They're all trying to make up deals. Okay. Do I think the Islanders may have something in the works? Absolutely. I'll throw everything on the table right now. Could they be dumping salary? They could be. Could they be making a trade or two? No doubt. Is that all in the works? Absolutely. Do I give up for McGrody? Here's the thing with McGrody. He doesn't have much of an advantage. And my question is, he's a winger on a very good Michigan team. And he scored, 13 goals? Is he a good player? Yes. Is he a product of the system that he's in? That's the question. He's right. The Jets do have enough talent on that winger side. Is he looking to play in the NHL now? Probably. Would it be a mistake? Probably. And this is going to be my final thoughts on the draft and the draft moving forward. The draft is going to change, boys and girls, big time. Okay, there were rumors going around they may actually want to take out the 6th and 7th round picks at some point. They're going to take out those rounds, but we'll see what happens. Okay, for me, the game is going to change from a development standpoint, especially if the CHL allows those players who are overagers or whatnot to allow them to go over to college and play 2 years there, maybe get their degrees or whatnot. Will the NHL teams still be able to hold their rights? They probably will. But if they go through college, the whole development scale tips. You're going to go back to seeing more quality in the drafts. And if these teams can hold on to these college, these Canadian Hockey League players who went to college, they still hold on to their rights. They're adding value. They can make moves like Cutter McGrody, like the Jets can with McGrody. There's more value in that draft if the NCAA allows that. That also means the quality of games in the NCAA is going to go bananas. So I think the draft is going to change. There's going to be a little more value going on. Is it going to shape the game a little bit? I think so. Prospect rankings, I'm not going to say are going to be a things of the past, but I think there's going to be a much bigger influence of college free agents when they hit 22, 23, 24. I think you're going to see a much bigger free agency market overall with players who are in their mid 20s than you would with 30-year-olds. I think 30-year-olds at this point looking for big time contracts, I don't think you're going to see them anymore. They may get the big contracts. I don't think they're going to get those 8-year extensions. That's where I see this draft going. So listen, good luck with all that weather stuff over there on Long Island. Should be the best hockey. Yeah. Any other questions, comments, concerns? If you guys have to go, by all means, we can end the show early. I'm only doing this for you guys, but I don't want you guys getting stuck in bad weather, trying to watch this and whatnot. We can end the show early. That's fine. Listen, boys and girls, youngest draft in a very long time. The Islanders have a chance to get some real good quality picks at number 20 with Bridgeport the way it is right now, with Worcester the way it is right now. The players drafted from 23 and 24, they're going to have more value as they develop and become Islanders. 25 even. I'll be completely honest. If Lou trades this draft pick, I don't think I'm going to do a draft show. There is a lot of work put into this. There's a lot of research. Lou trading the picks again. Like I said, as of Sunday, I was told the Islanders have intentions of drafting in the first and the second rounds. Could that change? Sure. I don't think he is. If he trades down, I'll tell you this right now. If he trades down, I'm looking at Lucas Peterson. If he slips beyond 20, if he goes down to 23, you may lose out on Lichenko, Boisvert, Chernishaw, definitely Chernishaw, probably definitely Jet Lichenko. If he slips down to 23, I would look more at Solberg, Badinka, Emery, and Lucas Peterson. That's what I would go. I hate you, Mike. I hate you. I love you, but I hate you. I don't think he's going to trade away the picks. I don't think he can afford to. As I already explained on the show, you guys have literally 7 prospects, 5 in college, 2 in Europe. If you can rack up another 6 in this draft, you're good. It's a little bit better. But again, the plus side to this, you've got a good spread of healthy prospects in Bridgeport and Worcester right now, where, in all honesty, as an Islanders organization, playoffs should be the minimum for both those squads. Minimum this coming year. You know what? Here's the thing. My mom is actually retiring on Friday, and my parents live in Florida. They're coming up to Delaware to visit my sister. They want me to come down on Wednesday for the day. I'm probably not going to do a show on that Wednesday. It's July 4th. I don't want you spending your July 4th with me on a Thursday night. If you guys want, I'll be more than happy to do a show for you guys on July 5th. We'll talk about free agency. We'll talk about the draft. And we can complete the season. And then I plan on taking the summer off. You'll probably see more writing from me during the summertime, if anything. Ehlers is not a sore spot. I really wanted Nikolai Ehlers here as a 26-year-old, 24-year-old. If Nikolai Ehlers gets an 8-year deal at 28 years old, I like him. I think he improves the team. There's no doubt about it. I don't know who the Islanders would have to give up. Honestly, guys, I haven't listened to the rumors. I don't. Especially when I hear on Sunday that the Islanders intend on drafting the first and those 2 second rounders. Could something else be done? Sure. Nikolai Ehlers sounds good, but from what I've learned around this time, there is just a lot of good clickbait going on. It's literally water cooler talk for every media outlet there is. It's good for discussion. That's fine. It's good on their hits. Any kind of rumor talk, it just moves everyone's rankings up in Google or their hits or whatever they need to do. Me personally, I don't pay attention to them. It doesn't mean they're wrong. It certainly makes for great conversation. But for me right now, as far as I'm concerned, me doing this so long, the only person leaking out information would be the agents. Every single general manager at this point, or some kind of executive, whoever they are, every single team is in Vegas right now. They're locked in their rooms. They do that on purpose. They do not get a lot of sleep at this point. This entire week is a blur. That's where you're going to see the majority of the trades being worked at right now. So that's where I stand on trade rumors and whatnot. Not that I don't believe them. They make for great talk. Certainly hits on other websites. But I don't really take them as substance. If it works out, wonderful. But for me, I'm more concerned about what the Islanders are going to do for the draft. That's actually more important, as far as I'm concerned, for the overall growth of the organization. Yeah, guys, let me see what you guys want. Hoping for a Solberg first round and a Peterson second round. I don't think Chicago's second rounder is going to be used by the Islanders. Okay. I can go along with Solberg. I can go with Peterson. Those are 2 sneaky good moves. Those are 2 sneaky good moves. And like I said before, you can bring Peterson over tomorrow if you wanted to. You could pull a Simon Holmstrom and bring him over. He would probably have to have one hell of a training camp, but you can do that. I don't know if I would want Peterson with Jeffries and Dufour on the first line, although that would be interesting. I would still want, and this kind of goes into July 1st. For me, I really hope the Islanders go after a defenseman, a right-handed defenseman, in the mold of a Julien Gauthier or a Hudson Fasching, where they have spent enough time in the American Hockey League. They may be good enough for the NHL, but they clear waivers because they haven't been given that opportunity yet. Cameron Crotty is on my list for a right-handed defenseman who may just need a shot. He was in the Arizona organization for such a long time. I would love to see the Islanders try to pluck him up. Okay. The second free agent I would like to see is someone who could be a playmaker at the AHL level for Jeffries and Dufour. Like the Islanders, who probably need a scoring winger, the Bridgeport Islanders need a playmaking centerman on that first lines with Jeffries and Dufour. Give me some kind of a Matt Barzal type. Give me a playmaker. You do that, I think Bridgeport's going to be solid. Yep, I still think Jeffries is going to be a good player. Mike McMahon still thinks he's going to be a good player, and I've said this before. I'm very critical of prospects. When I'm doing this draft, I'm only expecting some of these kids to play a certain amount of games for the Islanders. That's it, bare minimum. I'm very, very critical. I'm very, very tough on prospects. Gary will vouch for that. Joe can now vouch for that. Randy can vouch for that. I have not been excited for a prospect like Jeffries since Ilya Sorokin. I still think he's got something there. So, as far as free agency goes, that's what I want to see out of Bridgeport. What am I looking for the Islanders? I'm still keeping up with my bold prediction that Siplikov is going to get time on that first line with Horvat and Barzal. Strictly because the puck doesn't stay on a stick long and it normally goes towards straight to the goal. Barzal knows where that puck is going to be. Yeah, it is a bold statement. It's a very cautious statement on Jeffries, no doubt. But again, it comes to a point where if Anders Lee can only rack up 10 goals in a season, can Alex Jeffries score 10 goals in the NHL? Yes. For pennies on the dollar? Yes. Put him in. Simon Holmstrom can go back to the third line. Alex Jeffries can move up. And again, I know a lot of people are looking for another left side winger, scoring winger. I think Matt Barzal takes over that left wing side, guys. I think Simon Holmstrom's going to be your second line left winger with Nelson and Palmieri. What I don't think we know yet is who's going to play with Anders Lee, who's going to play with Pierre Engvall. And I think if the Islanders have to look anywhere, it would be a third line center if JG Pageau is no longer on this team. We're going to blame it on you anyway, Matthew. So a third line center, yes. Would I like Mike Riley to come back? Sure. I would love for him to come back. Affordable? Sure. Blended in very well. His defense actually improved. Do I think the Islanders are going to bring back the same team? Maybe. It really is a question of what are they going to do with Siplikov for me. And here's the other thing, folks. Coming into this season, the Islanders are going to have close to $5-6 million. Granted, they've got some restricted free agents to sign. But in all honesty, if the Islanders can clear 1.5, 2 million, in cap space to start the season. In all honesty, guys, they're major players come trade deadline because they're going to have close to $6-7 million in cap space by the trade deadline. I don't think anyone's going to go on long-term injured reserve. That's how I'm going. I can't see Lee moving, and here's the reason why and again, this is the business side that you guys hate hearing. Where is it? Anders Lee, granted, his cap is a bit much, no doubt. His cap hit is $7 million, but the Islanders are only paying him 5.8. Next year, it's like 4.5. You're paying Anders Lee basically $5.8 million to rack up close to 20 goals again. It might be It might be doable. Being ultra positive here, but again, we'll see what happens. And then you're asking Anders Lee next season to rack up 15 to 20 goals. The following season, at like $4 million, $4.5 million. Okay, it's still possible. Anders Lee in the third line role makes sense depending on who is that next center. I don't think Jeffries is going to push Lee out. I still think it's Lee's to lose. If Simon Holmstrom doesn't have a big season, if Simon Holmstrom doesn't shoot the puck like I've been wanting him to for like the last 5 seasons, I think Jeffries could replace Simon Holmstrom on that left wing side. I think Holmstrom could eventually replace Anders Lee, and Alex Jeffries can take over that second line left wing. Or right wing. He plays both. No. I agree to a certain extent here with Pellick and LTIR risk, but if they just put him on injured reserve, you can put Samuel Bolduc in. Especially if you re-sign Mike Riley, you're okay. You're okay. I'm all right with that. And then you can have someone from Bridgeport come up. Some of those veterans, defensemen who have been there for a while, they can be the 7th defenseman if you need to. He's a right-handed shot playing on the left side. A lot of kids are doing it this way. Even Matt Barzell is a right-handed shot, but he wants to play on the left side because he can protect the puck better. That's one of the advantages of playing on the opposite side. He can snipe from any angle. I can't stress that enough. Islander fans looking for your sniper, you may have that in Jeffries. If he can translate that to the National Hockey League. So, again, July 1st, Islanders, a third line center. If Pajot's not here. If you can improve the team with getting a winger, okay. Again, money right now it's a little confusing. For me, I'd rather sit back, watch this whole show called The Draft, watch all the drama unfold on Monday, and eat the popcorn. We'll talk about it on Friday, and we'll go from there. But if they can develop Bridgeport to some of those players, I think there's enough depth on this team where they should do, again, no worse than 87 points. And believe it or not, I've had the chance to talk to a couple of scouts, and every single one of them have told me that watch out for a big bounce back year from Sorokin. Sorokin's now on a mission. And if the Islanders can supply the right system for him and for the rest of this team, The Islanders are going to be there. Where exactly, we're going to discuss that in September. But for me, the Islanders, just from a foundational standpoint, look good. Bridgeport looks good. Worcester looks good. I haven't seen all three franchises look this healthy in a very long time. All three. What the Islanders need to do from here on out is continue to draft the rest of the way through. How high can they go? We'll find out in September. Yes, I do talk to scouts. It does happen. I've been doing this long enough. What the heck? Give me a little credit here, guys. Yes, I've talked to scouts every once in a while. They don't know what's going on with the Islanders. They know a goalie who had a rough year. They know he's ready to bounce back. So, any other questions, comments, concerns, guys? Listen, enjoy the draft if you watch it. For those of you who did mock drafts, congratulations. Oh yeah, Slapshot. My bad. I'm tired. This has been a very long draft research for me. This one took a little more work. No, and especially now, Brian, nobody knows what's going on with the Islanders. Just from a player perspective, they know what Sorokin's going to bounce back. But listen, at this point, no one knows. No one's going to know. The Islanders staff, they're all on lockdown. Family and friends won't hear from any of those employees probably until Sunday. It's usually how things go with the rest of the NHL and everything else. Everything is literally on a lockdown. If it gets leaked, more than likely it's from the agents. So, no, for those, again, Randy, before you go, put in your link so everyone can read your blog on your draft as well. Again, guys, thank you for coming on. Enjoy Friday. Enjoy Saturday. We're going to try to maybe come back on Friday if you guys want. We'll talk free agency. We'll talk draft. We'll talk results. And then we may call it a summer. And we'll be back sometime in mid-September. So thank you guys for coming on. It's been a lot of fun. I've always enjoyed covering the draft for you guys. Hopefully, if they draft over the next 2 rounds, I'll be able to do this show again. So thank you once again for coming on. Let's go, Islanders. And here's to any draft parties. Good luck. Enjoy. And we'll see you next week.